Hi, hello, how are you? Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to talk to some real people about some real things, living real lives, doing real stuff. This is the Working Perspectives podcast. I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied as always by my editor, producer, Tom Byers. This is the part 2 of the Alex Lavelle experience. This is part 2 of 4. If you haven't checked out part 1, please do so and let us know what you think. You can find us on all podcast platforms and YouTube at Working Perspectives Podcast. You can find us on Spotify at The Working Perspectives Podcast. And then you can follow us on Twitter at Working P Pod. And if you want to hit us up on Instagram, maybe give us some memory lane stuff, maybe memory lane ideas, you can do it at Working Perspectives Podcast on Instagram. All right, let's get this shit started. All right, let's go. Fencing is badass, right? Like, take away all the guns and shit. Swords are the fucking gimmick, you know?
Sure.
So, okay, so let's keep it moving. I want to get into your job history and stuff, and then it'll transition into some of the traveling you did. So let's start first. So the first job I have here that you did, and I had the same job just a few years earlier, is that at the age of 12, you were a busser at this Italian restaurant that we brought up before called Casa d'Amici, where our mom was a waitress.
Tom's mom was a waitress at before.
You mean Shake? Shake's mom was a waitress there as well.
Well, she was a waitress at Luigi's. I don't know if she did it when it became Casa.
She did. She was there. Oh. Yeah, and Anthony was a dishwasher there too.
Oh,
yeah.
It was before my time. It was before my time.
Working 9 to. So so Alex was a busser there. So what did you think, Alex? That was your first job. How'd you feel? What'd you learn?
It was what do you mean what I think? It was all right. You know, I was like the worst employee because I didn't know what I was doing. So I just showed up one day. My first night I made like $78 in tips or something, like on my own. Yeah. And so like as a 12-year-old, that was like a lot of money. And then next night I did something similar. I did like $60-some or something. And so I kind of set myself up then thinking like, oh, you know, this is like normal. But I don't know if it was just because mom was working and like, this is my son, but I don't know. People were like handing me $5 bills and stuff. But then she stopped working there pretty soon after. And so I was still working there and I didn't know what I was doing. I was like 12 years old and we didn't have like team meetings or anything. There was no like formal training. So a lot of mistakes.
They just said, do this and do this.
Yeah. Made a lot of mistakes, I would say. Didn't really know. They used to, Trisha, who worked there, used to.
Love Trish.
Yeah, she was amazing. But she used to talk to me about prioritizing. I'd be like, prioritize what? You know, you mean talk to people more so they'll give me more money? I don't know what you're talking about, lady. So yeah, but that was it. I mean, it was a good first job. I used to be my feet used to hurt so bad when I came home.
Oh, that's one thing that people don't realize about when you're a waiter or a busser or food runner or cook or anything like that. You got to train your legs and your feet to take that because
it takes
the first couple weeks it's brutal. But then once they get like trained up and they're beat in a little bit, they get used to it. But those first couple of weeks are brutal. I just remember working like bartending and serving so many times, just thinking like, God damn, I just wish I had a job where I sat down.
Yeah, you just never want to be that server or busser or whatever that is running through the restaurant. I've always Tom said that to me once because, you know, we come from like a family of servers. Big restaurant, you just don't want to be that server that's like running. You know, it's like you always want to like maintain some professionalism, right? And not get caught up. But any restaurant that I've worked in, there's a degree of like crampedness, right? Even if it's a small space or a big space, you're always trying to fit as many people as you can into that space. So it's always going to be kind of tight, at least at times. You know, you're squeezing between tables, you're carrying stuff, so you're always maneuvering around. Smaller restaurant, I don't know. It's like it's easier to see everything, but it's also there's nowhere to hide.
Yeah,
So
and the kitchens. I mean,
True
the
that.
kitchens is a real. That's another wild card. If you have like a tiny little kitchen, because the guys in the kitchen, they don't have to be nice. I dealt with that first. One of the first places I worked at was a bar slash like family restaurant, and it was an actual like family place where like it was kind of nice. Um, and it wasn't nice, but it was like wholesome. Like it wasn't just a bar. And man, when you went back in that kitchen, if you weren't on your game, like one of the cooks would definitely scream at you. And I remember I went in with like a huge tub of, I was bussing and I had a whole bunch of dishes. And I went in and I almost hit a waitress when she had like the big, platform plate thing going on.
Oh, the
And
tray.
so
Yeah.
she almost lost like a full tray of brand new food. And the cook
Oh.
just looked at me and then screamed at me in the top of his lungs. I was like mortified. I must have been 13, 14, and I immediately like ran out of there, and I did not go back in the kitchen for the rest of my shift. It was a scary. He later overdosed,
yeah,
so fuck him.
Oh, Jesus, shake. I remember, I mean, I cooked at a bunch of places and things like that, but I know what you're saying. It is kind of like cooks do have a stigma and an attitude of like being jerks. But like also on the other side, like that's almost like he's kind of like initiating you because once the cooks are your boys, like
hmm
they're your boys. You're like their ride or die.
yeah,
Pretty cool.
yeah. You got to get in good with the kitchen.
Mhm.
So I want to keep it moving because, like I said, we got a huge list here. So Alex also worked at a place that's near and dear to all of our hearts. So we lived in a neighborhood, and we were very lucky to have a neighborhood that had a corner deli. And the corner deli was like our staple. Like we would meet there, we'd hang out there. Everyone was buying stuff from there. It was just like our place. It was this famous place that made these famous sandwiches that everyone knew about, and it was really, really good. So the place was called Giuliano's Deli, right? So Alex worked there for a time, right? And so Alex, at the deli, what were you just like stocking the fridge and making sandwiches? What were you doing?
Yeah, it was really short lived because I ended up joining the wrestling team right after,
Mm-hmm.
and so I
Okay.
stopped having time after school to do it.
Yeah.
But it was like for a couple months, like maybe like 3 or 4 months I was there, and um, yeah, I was restocking the cooler, washing dishes, vacuuming up, bringing people in, not making sandwiches. I could put stuff in the fryer, but not like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
not like
You have to
making.
be like,
You have to be the
yeah, you
next
got to be
level to make
yeah.
sandwiches, which
You
is
got to go
fine.
to, Giuliano's University to get your diploma in sandwich
Yeah,
making.
I mean, I
So,
probably would have worked for sandwiches because they were.
yeah, they were the best. So, a real Italian from there, top notch. So, all right, so keep it moving. So, you worked at Giuliano's for a cup of coffee, then left to join the wrestling team. So,
Hmm
you're still in high school at this point, and then you started working at a retirement home. And I remember you got, I believe you got a friend of the show and hopefully aspiring guest of the show, John Bell. Believe you got him a job at that retirement home. Is that right?
You know, I never worked with John at the retirement home because he
Okay.
got a job in a different dining room. So at this retirement
Uh,
home, there was like 3 dining rooms, but
oh, so this was a big place.
yeah, well, there was the main dining room, right, which was like the premier area. Then there
Hmm.
was another
Yeah.
dining room that was more for people that were a little bit further along in their stay. And John
Ooh.
like hated this place because he just like was surrounded by death. Um and
Oh my
the
God.
people are much more, it's like this dining room is where like they would send kind of folks that maybe weren't ready for main dining room, like the B team, I guess. John didn't have serving experience, so they sent him there. Um, and the folks up there were a lot different. You're serving a lot of like buttermilk and bouillon to people, and they're just like, I don't know who you are, kind of thing. And
Oh my God.
yeah,
So
he
like
would just be
legit, those
depressed.
people are like, all right, these are the people that could die at any time, so we're gonna keep them here. The people that are, getting chlamydia from having all the sex
Their
in the old
nurses would like be there with them,
oh my word.
or there would be like nurses on staff there while you were serving them. I mean, I maybe did one shift there the whole time. I was like, oh, get me out of here.
That bad, huh?
Yeah, it was not. I was like subbing for someone. They needed someone to cover a shift.
And John didn't fare too well there either in that environment.
I don't know how long he was there, to be honest. I think he was there like a couple months and then left. It was really, I had another friend, Rachel, who's a friend of the show.
No. I'm the only me and Shake are the only ones allowed to say who are friends of the show.
Okay.
But Sausage is, as of now, is not a friend of the show, but could be.
How
But
do people become friends of the show?
they listen to the show.
Oh. Okay.
Or because they're a guest.
Well, then she might be a friend of the show. You don't even know.
She isn't following us on any socials. So.
Oh, okay. So yeah, she was a friend. Like she was my friend who I worked with the most there. Also, some kids we grew up with. I mean, it probably can't. You might have to edit his name up. But like Drew Mangle worked there senior year.
Love Drew. Great kid.
Like we were friends. So. But I didn't get to work with John too much.
And John was previously brought up for the true fans of the show. They will remember him as the karaoke singing, mop wielding madman that worked at Subway when Jill Byers did her interview.
Jill's episode.
She was working at an ice cream shop that was attached to a Subway, so she would have to watch this John Bell. So,
it was actually Jesse that got him that job.
Right. Just to connect all the dots here, John and Alex grew up together and went to Catholic school together and raised a lot of hell. And then, we're kind of working some jobs together as well. So I just wanted to.
He also was Shake's next door neighbor.
My next door neighbor. All these famous, awesome people that you hear about, we all grew up in the same neighborhood, man. It's unbelievable.
We all grew up. But
phenomenal.
John and I were 2 days apart, and so that's how we became friends.
Very cool. Very cool. So, all right. So let's keep it moving. So you were at the retirement home. So then was it after that or during that you were also delivering pizzas and working at a dishwasher at the pizza place? After
that. Quit the retirement home. Senior year was like, I'm done with this. And leading up to that, there were some things, but left the retirement home and then started delivering for Franconi's. Got like a call one day from a friend, was like, "Hey, you got a car?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "We need a driver." I was like, "All right."
Nice.
I delivered for Franconi's until I went on a 1 month trip to Europe, and that was. And when I came back, I was like, I don't want to deliver pizza at Franconi's.
All right, fans, time for a break in the action. We're going to bring back one of our favorite segments, 90 Seconds of 90 Day Fiancé. This is where we talk about the show 90 Day Fiancé from the TLC channel. This is a show where immigrants try and trick ugly Americans into marrying them to get green cards. Our good friend, Party Boy Pete McCormick, is going to share some of the most awesome stories from the show. Party Boy Pete, what's the story?
What's up, party people? This is Party Boy Pete McCormick with 90 Seconds of 90 Day Fiancé, and today we will be talking about Elizabeth and Andre. Elizabeth is from Florida, and Andre is from Moldova. If you're wondering about Moldova, Moldova is where dreams go to die and where Florida ugly ducklings go to find their fiancé. When they get back to America, Andre doesn't want to find a job. Elizabeth's family pays for him to become a trucker, which he abandons to become a handyman, which he abandons to become a stay-at-home dad. He keeps changing jobs. As I said, Elizabeth isn't the most attractive of the sisters. You can find out how attractive the other sisters are on their OnlyFans page. Yes, all of them have OnlyFans pages. Everyone in the family has also been arrested, and when they go to Moldova for the wedding, they're upset at the food. They think it's peasant food because it's not McDonald's. Instead, it's croissants and fresh fruit. Anyway, that's 90 seconds of 90 Day Fiancé. Back to you, man.
All right, that was another episode of 90 Seconds of 90 Day Fiancé with our good friend Party Boy Pete McCormick. All right, back to the show. Okay, so let's get into that then, right? So you were essentially delivering pizzas and working at a dishwasher at this pizza place to save up money to go to Europe. So after you graduated high school, you convinced our mom to not buy me a cell phone, but instead pay for you to have a trip to Europe with your friend Jimmy. What was that trip like? Where did you go? What did you see? Give us a good synopsis and story from there. Take it away.
All right. So that trip was really intense. You know, there was a lot going on leading up to it, but we basically left the day after high school graduation, and we were gone for a month. We started in Ireland, then went over to Paris, then to Rome, then we were in Athens, then we went to like the Greek islands for a minute, then we went back up through Italy and Germany to Prague. So we were in the Czech Republic, and then we went to Amsterdam, and from Amsterdam we flew back to Ireland, and we finished the trip out in Ireland.
So it is to be said for our listeners, when he says we, he means a friend of the show and brother of a guest of the show, Jimmy McCormick. He's the brother to Pete McCormick, who some people know him as the Tax Man, but he was a former guest on the show, and Jimmy is a good friend of the show. Can't wait to have him on. So you're in Europe. You're 18. You just graduated high school. You go to Ireland, then you're popping around Europe, doing your thing, living the life of a young man on the road and doing it up. So what would you say, if you had to say, what was your favorite place that you visited while in Europe?
Yeah, I mean, hands down, it was we went to Mykonos. You might know it from Lindsay Lohan, had a video like a year or so ago that went viral. Like, this is how you party in Mykonos, bitch. But we were on Mykonos. That was probably the coolest thing.
Nice. I've heard Greece is beautiful.
Yeah, it's one of the most beautiful places on the planet. Athens itself was kind of dirty and not my fave, but the food was cheap. Greece was definitely, and then after that, Paris was really cool. Expensive, but really cool. And, Ireland and Amsterdam. I mean, Rome wasn't my favorite, but we weren't there that long. So I'd love to go back. And it was just super hot when we went. But, the trip in general was super eye-opening because, we had been watching like Euro Trip and what was that movie? Hostel. So we had like two very like mixed things of like
opposite ends of the spectrum there.
We were staying in hostels, you know what I mean? So we were like, it was a pretty eye-opening experience where we didn't have cell phones. We had a set amount of money that we blew through like a third of our money in the first like 2 days, just from like living we were on vacation, right? Like we were, a burger in Dublin was like $15, 15 like euro, you know what I mean? Which was it was like, so we were blowing through money left and right. We had already spent like a lot on just plotting out for the traveling. So it was a really eye-opening experience of like, oh wow, like this could go bad. We can't get in contact with people. If we get our shit stolen, and we were in Amsterdam, I remember these kids like a bunk over, we're 18 at the time. These kids like a bunk over got robbed like in the middle of the night. And I heard it, but I was so out of it that I didn't know that's what was happening. And I don't know. I thought it was maybe we were.
What do you mean? Did they get robbed in the hostel?
No, someone just went through their shit and stole their shit.
Oh, I see.
Like they got pickpocketed essentially. But it's like if someone would have stolen our cash, we would have been up shit's creek. Like,
yeah.
it's hard to get. The only thing that you could do is like in Europe at the time was like dial up internet. You might be able to get on instant messenger or like send an email, but you can't.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
you
You
can't
would
like
have been so effed.
yeah, and like forget about like wiring money and stuff. So yeah, that was scary, and then we had to budget, and so the money was a big like a big stress, and it was also just the two of us, right? And so like just being entertained for a month, we're spending every minute of every day with each other, because like you almost don't want to let somebody out of your sight because you could lose them. You don't have a cell phone, you know what I mean? And so
Oh my
um
God.
and there was one night when we did actually, we like got separated. This was in Greece, which was like the coolest thing. It was like the first night I ever hitchhiked. It was insane. I was like, the good thing was the drinking age was 18 everywhere. You could just go to a bar, you could chill out. So, but it was a really intense trip. And leading up to it, I had some like things in my personal life going on, some like romantic things that were kind of like, all like put on hold during this trip, and there was just so much happening. It was very, very intense, eye opening
Nice.
for sure.
Nice. Good. Glad to hear that. So good. I mean, that's what the trip is about. So, all right. So you have a blast in Europe, and like honestly, I'd love to have just a show of you telling stories from Europe and things like that. But so you get home from Europe, you're officially a
New
traveled,
man,
cultured.
a new man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're officially a man about town. So when you get back, you start working at Ruby Tuesdays. Now,
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never worked at a Ruby Tuesdays, but I have worked at Applebee's, and it was the worst job I've ever had, the worst place I've ever worked. If there is alien life on this planet, they work at Applebee's. But tell us, what was your experience like working at Ruby Tuesdays?
The people, it was a new restaurant. It had just opened up, so we were like we kind of ran the show. So my friend Danielle got me, who's a 4th Street legend.
AKA Sweet Mama Cheesecake.
She got me the job, and so it was like the three of us, her, our friend Kelly. We had a bunch of friends that were working there, and so it was a new restaurant, new managers. They didn't really know what to do with us, so we kind of just did whatever we wanted.
Nice.
And I remember one time, we had like a bird call system that like the plan was, if it was going to be a mass exodus, we were all going to quit at the same time. If if the management like tried to push us too far, and the plan was I was going to like stand up and do a bird call. And one night it got very close to that, but it didn't end up happening. But but we did have a
Would they
whole.
all have walked out with you?
I would definitely. I don't know if it would have been a Jerry Maguire moment or not, but there was definitely a Wendy in there who was ready to go. To go at any moment.
Oh
So
my God.
it was goofy, but we were 19 years old.
You're also
So
young kids. Yeah.
yeah, so it was like at this point, it was like 18, 19. It was the year after graduating high school, and so we were just like all about partying, and it was just supporting our
Young kids with
lifestyle.
money. And
Still living at home,
yeah.
so
After that, you worked there for a little while, and then you got the travel bug again, and you went to live in Hawaii
yeah,
for a summer. And
yeah.
when living in Hawaii, you worked at a restaurant I've never been to, but I'm very interested in, Bubba Gump. So,
Bubba
what was
Gump.
it like living in Hawaii and working at the Bubba Gump restaurant? Please do tell.
Well, I mean, it was awesome. Like, Bubba Gump's probably the best, at least the one in, Waikiki is the best place I ever worked in a restaurant. They had a really cool culture. The people were great. It was a lot of transplants. It was a mix of like transplants,
Really?
yeah, and people that were local and had lived there forever. So it was a good mix. People that were cool, that like you could party with or have fun with, and also like I went by a different name when I was in Hawaii. So when I was in Hawaii, I came out, right? That was like my plan, to be as far away as possible from our hometown and like try coming out. So I was like, okay, well, this way it won't, like, it's a safer place, right? With my reputation. So I went by a different name. I had an alias. I went by Jack.
Oh no.
Just Jack.
Oh.
Yeah.
And why? And so, speaking of handsome men, why did you pick the name Jack, Alex?
There was this legend in our hometown. No, no, that's not why.
Living legend.
I don't know. I just thought
easy name.
That'll be a fun name. And then people would be like, "Hey, Captain Jack." I bet you heard that one before. I was like, "Oh yeah," all the time, right? So it was like, but it was also like, it was really freeing because I didn't have this whole kind of identity that I was taking with me there. I could kind of, and what I found was like, I could be myself. It was great. I could just be myself and not really have to worry about what people thought, because so it was really one of the coolest trips ever. I went with a friend. I went with Big Mama Cheesecake. She ended up having to leave halfway through, and that was like intense. It wasn't planned, and so again, it was like scary to be out there, but it was really cool. I love
that's something that you've already, I commend you on very much, is that you always, like, if it's a tough situation like that, like you lived in Hawaii by yourself, you traveled Europe by yourself, like just after high school, and like you've lived in Chicago and different places, and you've always just been able to, like, just get on your feet and do your thing, and you aren't scared. And that's something that should be commended, because a lot of people, and I'm one of them, I'm I don't know if I could move up and go to Hawaii. You know what I mean? So,
well, I wouldn't say that I wasn't scared, and also I wouldn't have done it, right? Like my friend like pushed me out there to do it, and I just said yes and went with it. But it was a really scary situation. It's just, what are you gonna do? Like you can't. You just gotta kind of have to make the best of it. But yeah, and I mean, so what? Like, I was in Hawaii. Like, that's what you asked me. Yeah. You asked me, like, how was living in Hawaii and how was Bubblegums? Bubblegums was great, but the best part was living in Hawaii, because even when you're having a bad day in Hawaii, you're in Hawaii. Like, it's not that bad. Like, go for a walk. Go to the beach. I would work double shifts at this restaurant, and on my break, I would just go out to the beach. And I was like, this is the life. You know what I mean? Like, forget about it. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, so
and
it wasn't
there, like people coming there are like on vacation and like relaxing too.
Yeah,
right?
Especially in that part, right? Like we're on the main strip. It's a very touristy area, so it was a lot of people on vacation. Sometimes military, but a lot of people on vacation that were coming through, and so most people are there to just have a good time. They're there to like spend money.
Okay, fans, now for a little break in the action, we're going to introduce a new segment to the show. This is The Date You Hate with our good friend Burlington Bach. Burlington, what's the date and what do you hate?
Hey, Matt, the date is May 6th, 1679. You know what I really hate? When I come home from work and there's dishes in the damn sink. I mean, somebody's here all day. Like, nobody can do the freaking dishes around the house. Like, so I gotta come home after working all day, sweating, and freaking my hands hurt, my feet hurt, and I gotta come home and see there's dishes in the sink again. I mean, what else am I to do, I'm tired, and this is bullshit. That's the date, and that's what I hate.
All right, that was The Date You Hate with our good friend Burlington Bach. Now, back to the show. You're in Hawaii for a summer, and then you come back from Hawaii. So this should be said. Our dad was a veteran, And he had gone blind in like he had lost his sight, but then he went completely blind in like 2006ish or somewhere around then, right? So at that time he was a veteran, and he a disabled veteran. So there was a program where he could run a convenience store at a government-owned building, right? So what he did was he got hooked up with a job running a convenience store at the Social Security building in downtown Philadelphia, right? So he gets this store. When he took the store over, the store was a joke. There was like nothing there. It was just like a crap hole. People didn't go there. So then he took it over, and I worked there. Alex worked there. A bunch of us worked there, and we really got the store up and running. And they got like a bunch of things in there, and really made it like popular and pretty good. So that being said, so Alex, when coming back from Hawaii, got a job working at our dad's store at the Social Security building. So I worked there, and at the same time, Alex was working there, or no, he worked there for a while. Alex, what did you think about working for our dad at the store, after coming back from Hawaii?
It was a struggle for sure, for a lot of
Agreed.
reasons. I mean, that it's hard to work with family in general.
Agreed.
It was a new business.
Agreed.
It wasn't something that we grew up
Yep.
with. So there weren't like
Yep.
established rules. It wasn't normal for us. So we had to figure that out.
Yeah.
We didn't always spend a lot of time around each other. And then we were spending like 5 days a week together. And we were in a work environment. So there were struggles for that reason, but also it was in the Social Security building in Philadelphia. And like, I used to say, like, this was before It's Always Sunny became a thing, but it was like the sun does not shine in Philadelphia, and it definitely does not shine on that building. Like,
Agreed.
It was just a
100%.
dark. There's no windows in that
No one
section
smiles.
where we were. People are coming there, and it's like it's not like a friendly thing. Like, people are just miserable, and so
yeah.
I struggled with it, but then I had some good times there. Like, they did end up breathing some life into that space, but they'll tell you it was a challenge. Or Gabe would tell you.
What part of Philadelphia was it in?
It was at 3rd and Spring Garden. So it's like right down, like, for those gentlemen out there, it's right by Delilah's.
You guys have regulars that came in and got coffee?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Every day. So this was in a government building. It was for the workers of that building. And what it was is like, we would all have to have like laminated passes and everything. Like, it was very much like, it's a Social Security building. So it's a very secure building. Right. And they have like a bunch of like security and things like that. And you have to be like, they had to put you through a whole process just to even let you in. So we all got our passes and we get in, but then it's for people that work there. So like, say you work at Social Security building and there's a ton of people that work there, you would come in, right? If you didn't have time to stop at Starbucks or 7-Eleven or Wawa or something on your way in, you would come in, you could get your coffee, you could get food. They had like a bunch of, they had like the refrigerators with all the drinks and the sodas, and like, it was literally like a convenience store inside the Social Security building. And it's like a thing that they do for disabled veterans, and they get to have things like that, So it was cool that the government was able to hook them up with that. And I think that I like that they do that stuff for veterans. You know what I mean? So working at the store, Alex was there, but then I ended up getting Alex a job as a server at Vinny T's. And he was also working at this restaurant called Pumpernicks at the same time, while lifeguarding in the summer. So he was getting some stuff in. So Alex, give me some little stuff. How did you like working? You did 3 jobs at one time: Vinny T's, Pumpernicks, and lifeguarding. Tell me, how'd it go?
I mean, essentially, I didn't like any one of them well enough to like do it all the time. So I would kind of just spread out my time at different places to kind of switch it up. So I didn't get bored. The lifeguarding gig was great because it didn't pay well, but you're sitting by a pool all day for the summer, so couldn't complain about that. I would read a lot of books, and just kind of hang out, just think about my life, get a tan. And then the restaurant was good for like fast cash. It was a little more stressful. You're on your feet. It sucked working day shifts because you're just kind of throwing your day away and then you're working all night. It's like it could be a long day. But Pumpernicks was great. The food was great. I got to work with my friend Jimmy. It was an hourly position. I never really was a fan of that coming from the service industry. But again, you know, it was cool. I mean, it was like my first stint at a Jewish deli. So I got exposed to all different kinds of food that I wasn't normally as familiar with and learned more about the culture there. So that was really cool.
So then after that, you kind of like started doing the lifeguarding thing in the summer. You kind of like took that on as like a thing. So like you did that for 3 summers in a row.
Mhm.
And then after the 3rd summer of lifeguarding, you got promoted to assistant regional manager of like, so the way it would be is like, there's a ton of like apartment complexes around this area. And all the apartment complexes have like pools there, but all the pools have to have lifeguards at them. So there's like a business that supplies lifeguards for all the pools and all the apartment complexes. And that was what Alex was doing. So then Alex became assistant regional manager for that lifeguarding place. So how did you like that? You were kind of in like a managerial role, I would say, for like the first time. And how did you like that? How did it go? Tell us what happened.
I can confidently say that is the worst job I ever had, for sure.
What?
I can confidently say that because I went from being a lifeguard, sitting by the pool, really having free reign over what I did and like autonomy. Nobody really was watching what I did. People loved me. I taught a water aerobics class like 2 days a week.
There you go.
You know, it was like, you know, it was great. I had regulars that came down, they knew me. To now I was this manager, assistant manager with a new manager too. So we were both brand new. We were both the same age. And she was great. She was the manager, but it's like essentially we were doing the same job, but she was getting paid more. And so take that, you know. Anyway, but so we were doing the same job. She was getting paid more, and that wasn't the big complaint. I was like, whatever, you know, that's what I signed up for. I'm not gonna, you know, I was a team player, but the company itself, like they just run you into the dirt. My car got messed up. I was driving so many miles. I probably drove like 50,000 miles that summer or something, and it was just insane. Our territory was huge. We were visiting, you know, we had 24 pools in our territory, and you've got to, you know, you're supposed to touch and see them every day. And so if you split it in half, that's 12 pools I'm going to. In an 8-hour shift, you know, these pools might be anywhere from 10 to, you know, a half an hour away from each other. So then you're going in, you're checking in with these employees, seeing if they have any issues. Then you're checking in the pool, making sure that everything's right. It was just a mess. It was terrible, mismanaged. I would never, ever, ever like work for that company again. But, you know, the biggest thing I learned was, and this is something I continue to learn in management going forward, was like, you know, you've got to care about your employees that you work for. I did take that very seriously, and still do, but it was like, that was the other thing. Like this company could care less about their lifeguards that were out there. Wow. And, you know, I mean, I won't say their name, but they were trash. I would never, ever,
oh shit,
you know.
Man.
But I did love, you know, I loved some of the people I worked with. I loved a lot of my employees. Like, you know, I mean, they would get a kick out of it. Like, you know, wanted me to like come hang out. You young whippersnappers. I was like 22 or something.
And that's a Pennsylvania state law. Is that correct? That you have to have a lifeguard at apartment complexes that have pools?
Ooh, good question.
It is something to do with the law, you know.
Yeah, I live in California now, and they just have signs up saying like, "Hey, don't drown. We don't have lifeguards."
You can do that. Yeah, you can do that too. There are pools that can do that too. There's like a liability thing. So it's for insurance reasons. It's like cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
to hire
You get a
a
lower
pool
lower
company.
monthly if you have a thing or
It's
whatever.
so
Yeah.
stupid the
Yeah.
way it
In
is.
California, they have signs that say "Don't drown" and also "Please don't have diarrhea in our pools." And
It
it's every
depends on
pool
how
in
deep
every
the pool is
version.
too. It depends on how deep the pool is too. So, but
Yeah.
there were some communities where our job was just to like upkeep the pool. That was a pain in the ass too. It was ridiculous. Long
Yeah.
hours, terrible job. But it was my first stint in
Uh.
management, middle management.
After that, then you kind of went back to dad's store for a little bit. And at the same time, you went to his store because you were an intern at Theater Exile in Philly. So
Yeah.
you really like you were doing the theater thing in school. I
Mhm.
remember we would go to a bunch of your shows and things like that. And
Thanks for
they were
that.
really, really, yeah, of course, they were great. We loved going and everything like that. And so,
I hated
so
them.
you're kind of right. Either way, then you were getting you did the intern thing at Theater Exile in Philly while working at dad's store again, and like you kind of wanted to get this theater gimmick off the ground, right?
No.
So tell us, like we know like you were working at dad's store, but what were your jobs as an intern in theater? So Theater Exile is the name of the theater company,
Yeah.
is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so what was your job as an intern while working for Theater Exile in Philadelphia?
Yeah. I mean, Theater Exile was like the young, hot theater, right? And so our first
Oh yeah.
show that we did that I worked on was called The Lieutenant of Inishmore, and it was this big, bloody production. So one of the things I did
Ooh.
was, because I worked at the store, I had access to Restaurant Depot. So I like
Yep.
went with the props designer to Restaurant Depot. We got all the equipment for like the fake blood, and so
Yeah.
like corn syrup and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
then I would help, with a bunch of different stuff. So I guess the first thing I did was like reorganize the props room and keep an inventory of like props and costumes and stuff that we
Hmm.
had. And then
Oh,
it was
that's
anything from
interesting.
like hanging pictures in the office to, what I went there for was I initially wanted to do publicity, but my buddy who was there told me to go a different route into marketing and to work with the person who was in charge of that. And he was right. Like she was awesome. So I would make promotional videos for the plays that were coming
Oh.
out and things like that. And, I did some graphic work for like the online, promoting our next show.
Oh.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. So it was cool. And then,
Dude, that's cool.
yeah. And then, I mean, I got to be close to a theater company. And while I was like, still at this point, I was like president of the drama club or I had been
Yeah.
president of the drama club at my school, and I was pretty involved. And then they hired me on to be an artistic assistant, which was essentially kind of doing the
Ah.
same thing, but then getting paid. So
Nice. Cool. And I feel like theater, so theater is one of those things where it's like when you're in it, it's very much you're in it, but it's one of those things that like I don't know a lot about it, and I don't think Shake does either, where it's like it's one of those things like you see it from the outside. It's kind of like a closed door kind of thing. Like no one gets to see how the sausage gets made and stuff. So it's really
yeah,
cool that you got
man
to go in
behind the
there.
curtain kind of thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like so the theater company itself, so Theater Exile, did it have like an office or like what? Like where were you working out of?
Yeah, so that's where I worked out of. They had an office, and then connected to the office the office was in West Philly. I can't really remember the streets, but it was connected to a garage, right? That they had converted into like, a performance space that they would do for
Oh, I
like
see.
Philadelphia Fringe, or if they were doing like
Yeah.
a staged reading. Um,
Hmm.
but it was very grungy, very very
Yeah.
storefront theater, which was
Yeah.
what I was into at the time anyway. So,
Sure.
um, yeah, it was basically working in this small office, and then we would rent out a space for the production.
So say you're like an aspiring like writer and you wrote a play, you would contact Theater Exile and say like, "Hey, I got this play. I need actors, and then I need a place to perform, and like I need props and all that stuff. So like you're a writer, you want to get your show off the ground, you contact them and they get it going. Is that kind of the thing, or how does it work?
No. So
all right, well, big fucking swing and miss for me. Great.
Like, okay, in theory, I guess a writer could do that, like hire a theater company to like put on their production, but that would be a lot of money for that writer. So what a theater company does is they have an artistic director and like, you know, an artistic team, a board typically too, that will approve their season beforehand. And the goal is, you know, to create great theater, risky theater, something that's in line with their mission. They'll select all the plays, you know, like Exile had done a production of Glengarry Glen Ross that got really great reviews, and that kind of like put them on the map. And so they select the plays and then, you know, just craft and build the season around that. Usually it's already well known, or writers that they're up and coming, or something to the play speaks to them. So the theater company chooses the play. Now, sometimes you'll have an artist in residency, like a writer who will craft an original piece and it's like commissioned by the theater company. That happens a lot. But for a smaller company like Exile, they might work with like we worked with Noah Heidel, who I loved his work. And he, you know, he's since gone on like to do bigger things.
Of course. Everyone knows Noah Heidel. Yeah. Big fan.
He had a play out here I have to look at and see what he said recently, but he had a play out here in Chicago that was at the Goodman. You know, he was just, but there was other, you know, Martin McDonagh, who did The Lieutenant of Inishmore, was famous for doing these kind of like gory, he's an Irish playwright, and he did like these gory, you know, like Irish plays. And Big Petey actually came out.
Those Irish playwrights.
Pete came out to see that show, and
what?
Yeah, I got.
What the hell was he doing there?
I got him tickets. He took a date there, and it was a really good. It was a good show.
We've come to the top of time. Our guest today, Alex Lavelle. Great job, Alex. I know that we've already booked you to come back on, and I think I can agree with Shake here, but we would love to have you come on again as a guest. Would you be willing to come on again?
No. Yes, of course.
Right.
Absolutely.
Thank you. This was an absolute pleasure, man. Loved having you. This was great. Shake, you got anything you want to say to the people before we get out of here?
Subscribe and rate us, and tune into our Thursday little pop-in weekender thing.
Oh yeah, we got the weekend pop-in on Thursdays now, so everyone, make sure you listen to that, or Alex is gonna
kill you. Wait, do you post these somewhere?
We post them.
What do you do after?
Yeah, every Tuesday, the episodes are released on all podcast platforms and YouTube. Yeah, we have a bunch of ravens.
Is it on KYW? What do you put it on?
KYW News Radio.
I can listen to it in the morning when I'm driving into work.
And another thing, and once again, big shout out to Eric Dahl, who does all of our music for the podcast. So, all you
shut up,
Eric does all the music.
Oh my God! You haven't listened to a single fucking episode. We said it several times on air.
I don't listen all the way through. I piece through it.
Oh, fuck off. I've been to so many of your shitty fucking plays, all these shitty fucking shows, and now you can't even listen to a fucking episode.
You know, I've been in Chicago for 10 years. You came out once. All right? So don't even talk to me about that.
You're welcome. Hey, guess what? Your niece turned 1 this year, and you forgot to call her on her fucking birthday. So don't give me any shit.
So did Mom. Can't get mad at me. And I sent her stuff.
I could be mad at both of you.
I sent her presents. Calm down.
Oh, that's presents don't make up for neglect. All right, Dad. Jeez.
I sent her some tasty cakes. It's like, here you go.
Yeah.
Your dad loves these. Don't ask. All right, folks. That is the end of Alex Lavelle Part 2. That is the end of the second part of the Alex Lavelle experience with the month of Alex here at the Working Perspectives podcast. As always, you can find us on all podcast platforms at Working Perspectives Podcast and on the Spotify at the Working Perspectives Podcast. Can't forget the. And you can follow us on Twitter at Working P Pod. And on Instagram at Working Perspectives Podcast. Want to be a guest on the show? Hit us at workingperspectives@gmail.com. Well, that's the end of part 2 of the 4-part series of the Alex Lavelle experience. Thanks, everyone. Stick around for the ad read. See ya. Do you have a message or a story inside of you that you've been waiting to tell? Have you always dreamed of writing a book but are intimidated by the complexities of the book publishing world? Perhaps you want to use a book to launch your public speaking or consulting career. If so, please reach out to Scott & Bell Publishing, located right here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Scott & Bell Publishing handle all genres and authors with all experience levels. Scott & Bell Publishing gives authors 100% creative freedom and a higher royalty split. They can be found at www.skotbell.com. That's www.s as in Sam, K as in kite, O as in October, T as in Tom, B as in boy, E as in Edward, L as in Larry, L as in Larry.com. That's Scott & Bell Publishing, where the authors go.